Well, what's happening here, everybody? This is Robert Phoenix, and welcome to 15 Minutes of Flame. We got a new audio thing going on today. Hopefully, it'll be a little more resonant, a little more rich. But I'm trying to work with the. I was experimenting today with some image changes, and very interesting. We can't do the test pattern. It gets up in the video capture. Anyway, this is not what today's show is supposed to be like. So I'm going to try to see what happens when I do this. No, that doesn't do much now, does it? Let me get rid of. Let me just get rid of a bunch of stuff here. Give me 1 second. This could be a little ugly, so bear with me, okay? We're going to fade to black here. Just trying to make some improvements over the holiday, and hasn't really. I got to work a few things out, so just bear with me. Okay, you got me there. There's the video capture. Let's just do this and get rid of this and strip it all away. Well, I'm here, and I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of this image here at the bottom. Okay. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do this. Let's see. Well, you may just have to work with me here with this guy, this Zen monk. Okay, so let me see if I can do something a little bit different. 1 second. I gotta figure out how to. Now it's bugging me. It's totally bugging me. Here we go. That's better, isn't it? I like it. All right, I think I did it. I think I changed the program. Thanks for being patient. How is everybody? It's Tuesday, the 3rd of September, and back on the case. Hair looking a little funky today. I'm going in for a bit of a trim today at 2 p.m. I'll be with Regina later today doing some recording. Let me just check in with you guys. Speaking of recording and sound, how's the sound today? Sounds good? Good. Hey, Alexis, what's happening? My friend was getting a foot massage in Bangkok while tanks were rolling down the street. Military coup. 2014. No one cared. Everyone was laughing. Yeah, we have a very different idea and image of freedom. Although I think that image is fading fairly quickly on a lot of levels. But hey, there's some good news today. I have some good news to report. Good news in our struggle to retain our environment, our analog bubble. I'll get into that. Okay, looks like full screen now. It's good. Excellent. And the volume, you guys like the volume? Should I bring the mic a little closer? I think it's pretty good, right? Yeah. Let me just check in with you again. Let's see. There's Ani, there's Amanda, there's Paulette, Jenny, Shari. There's Judy, and good. We got the whopping 35 people watching right now. It's okay. It's best 35 people on the internet currently watching this thing. So, the 3 things I want to cover today as we kind of get back into the flow. First of all, I want to thank Masaki for being on the show on Friday. He was great, wasn't he? He always brings his A game, and I love working with him. He's terrific, absolutely terrific, and he's welcome to come back on the show anytime. And I knew he'd have some interesting insight into that culture and what's going on there. So I want to talk a little bit about Dorian. First of all, Dorian is still hanging out and is displaying some rather, how should we say, very uncharacteristic sort of tendencies and traits. One of the things that Dorian was doing was Dorian was headed west. Dorian was headed west. Dorian was moving towards the Gulf, and that area looked like it was going to kind of miss landfall. And apparently there were a bunch of smaller storms that were kind of in front of Dorian, like smaller, And those smaller storms basically kept moving. And then Dorian broke off and started to head north again. So to me, it's representative of something that's being probably controlled or steered, which we've seen before. We've seen it primarily with Katrina. Harvey definitely felt that way. So they're kind of cooking and brewing this thing for as long as they can. I know a number of you are in Florida right now. I'd love to get some feedback, some info from the chat, see what's happening. If you guys have any insight, like Ani, I know you're there. We're talking about this. Sounds good. Good. Sounds a bit low on this end. A bit low. I can turn up. I can pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Dance. Dance. I'll work with it. I'll work with the volume. Okay. Now's probably not a good time. Let me just hold on a second. Let me see what I can do this. What if I turn this up here? Here. Does that make a difference? Here. All right, how about that? Turn up the volume a little bit. Yeah, Masaki's cool, man. Hey, what's going on, Lauren? Lightning Tree Spirit. There's Sticky. The Sticky one is in. Let's see. So, just what's going on down? Hey, Joni. What's going on down there? The purple one. All right. What's going on down there, Ani? Can you give us any updates with what's happening with Dorian? Because it seems to me like it's just kind of hanging out there, and it's done some radical stuff, right? It's broken off from its storm path, and it was headed west, and now it's headed north. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. I was looking up Dorian. It's a very interesting kind of reference. I don't think these things are by mistake, by the way. Ani says it's definitely being steered. Hurricanes don't come to a screeching halt, and wherever they keep moving, when they're I agree. So that basically stopped. It was headed west, stopped, and now it's like kind of moving north again with all those other little smaller storms moving to the west. So Dorian is a really interesting name. It is a very specific name, and it is connected to the Hellenic people speaking the Doric dialect of Greece. They thought it was thought that they entered Greece from the north at around 1100 BC, settled in Peloponnesus, and later colonized Sicily and southern Italy. So the Dorian people, I guess that's where we get the Doric column from. They were a group of people that were conquerors. So in Merriam-Webster, a member of an ancient Hellenic race that completed the overthrow of Mycenaean civilization and settled in the Peloponnesus and Crete area. So it does have kind of the feel of kind of this invader, right? It's kind of invader energy, Dorian. displacing people, perhaps. But I was thinking about hurricane names earlier, like much earlier, like months ago. I had a lot of time on my hands. I think I might have been driving. Anyway, I was thinking about hurricane names. I think there's a whole host of hurricane names that they just never really use. And a lot of the hurricane names, for a long time, they were just women. And of course, that wasn't going to play in the second wave, postmodern, feminist theater, so they had to begin to assign male names to them. But there were just so many names that somebody's trying to call me. There's just so many names that they don't have. Well, let's just say they can get more creative with hurricane names. And there are so many groups that are underrepresented with the hurricane names too. I mean, here we have, a Greek name. It's great, but obviously it's kind of there for a reason. It has to do with some kind of siege or some kind of conquest. Whether or not that's what will happen with the hurricane remains to be seen, but that's kind of what it feels like. But I was thinking there are so many groups that are underserved. We started to have kind of a bit more, how do I say this, ethnic representation with hurricanes. There was Jose and Maria, right? Joseph and Mary. Remember them? Hitting Puerto Rico. I was thinking, okay, well, they're starting to branch out a little bit, but I think they could do more. They could do more. I think they could get into, other areas of our society, other groups, other cultures. However, when you kind of go down that path, then you run the risk of assigning a name like, say, maybe, I don't know, Shlomo. How come there's never a Hurricane Shlomo? Like if you named a Hurricane Shlomo, or you named a Hurricane Ariel, or you named a hurricane, Shimon, why would that hurricane potentially be anti-Semitic? I'm curious if that would be the case. Hurricane Shlomo is now gathering force, but it must stop. Hurricane Shlomo is gathering force, but it must stop in Jupiter for sunscreen and sunglasses. Yeah, I don't. What else? I mean, how come there's no Asian hurricanes? How come they don't have like Mai Ling, or how come they're not kind of drafting from the distinctly unique and colorful names of so-called Black America? I'm not sure why aren't we living in a diverse world? Shouldn't hurricane names be dispersed across a lot of different groups? Like, wouldn't it be great to have a Hurricane Shaniqua? That'd be a badass hurricane, by the way, don't you think? Like Hurricane Shaniqua. That hurricane would take no fucking prisoners. I can tell you that right now. I think that we owe it to ourselves to have more creative representation with hurricanes. I think Dorian's a good start. Hurricane season, I think it's coming on now, right? I think these are really drummed up because I think that the Gulf Stream is fucked. I think it's totally fucked. And it's been screwed for a while now. That whole Gulf Loop current has been just whacked for decades thanks to any number of things. So if you're down in Florida, if you're down in the Keys, make sure that you take good care of yourself and kind of wait this thing out, and I guess be prepared to pivot if they decide to pivot with you. Let me see where we are with the stream here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, of course, I got to get into some 5G action. This came from a high school in Austin. Let's just leave it at that. High school in Austin. And they now have a badge policy at this high school. So everybody at the school, I believe probably including teachers now, I guess they've got the yoke around their neck too. Everybody's got to wear badges. Just like when they're at Google. You get to walk around with your badge at Google and you get to put it up and get secret access to, I don't know, the inflatable ball meditation smoothie room. So this is taking place today. So last week, apparently kids in the Austin School District got their badges when they took yearbook pictures. It's like, here's your yearbook picture, here's your badge. It's like, oh, I didn't know I was opting in for this. Gee, thank you very much. What else do you have in store for me? Let me read you this here. This is the badge policy. Students will be required to wear their badges at all times on the campus. IDs must be worn so they're visible from the front. It means you can't put them on your backpack. The students with off-campus privileges will have a different color badge. See, isn't that a little hierarchical? You know, you get an off-campus privilege, oh, you get a different color badge. It sets you apart from everybody else. Maybe they need to rethink that one. Because they want everybody to be the same. They've got to have it look the same, unless they want to create some kind of inbred elite structure in the caste badge system. But if you have off-campus privileges, you've got a different color badge. What else do they have here? Students will be provided with a lanyard and a school ID. Now, just to make sure that they're not going to squash their independence entirely, you get to use your own lanyard, as long as it's appropriate. What is appropriate? What's appropriate? So if I wanted to have a lanyard that was chain link around my neck, would that be inappropriate? I'm wondering. Or what if the lanyard was like a noose? That would be interesting. That would be interesting. You see, now there was a generation that would do shit like that. My generation might have. Certainly older generations would have. But I think to quietly rebel, the lanyard has some interesting possibilities. Interesting possibilities. For a while, at least. And then it'll just take away the individual lanyards. But now, Austin Unified School District policy is for all students to use official issue standard lanyards for their badges. If students wear unofficial lanyards for their badges, they will be appropriately fined and sent home for 1 week's worth of detention. You know, I mean, I'm sure it could go like that. Students must have an ID to enter the shuttle bus. So if you want to get on the shuttle bus is like a parking deal. You got to have your ID. So you park your car somewhere, there's a shuttle bus waiting for you, and the driver must ID you with your ID. Students must have an ID to be in the library. So you want to go in the library, you got to flash the ID. Check out a book and or print, ID. Students must have an ID to check out a Chromebook or a textbook. Now, Chromebooks have become sort of the book du jour in the public school system. The reason why they have is, of course, Google wants to get inside your kid's head because they'll create special programs and they'll create special curriculum based on their Chromebook and their cloud, because that's where everything happens with the Chromebook. Happens in the cloud. There's no central processor, no memory rather. There's no memory really inside of a Chromebook. It's all up there, right? So if you want to check out that Chromebook textbook, you got to ID up. You got to have your ID to purchase a lunch. You know, it's not the good old days where you got a punch card. Remember those? You used to get a card, and then you go up to the woman who was at the head of the line, and she had her little hole puncher, and you punched off your lunches. Nope. Gone are those days. Apparently there was some counterfeiting of those lunch line cards. Led to millions and millions of dollars of loss each year for the school system. No, I'm just kidding. Students must have their ID to leave the classroom for restroom breaks, water, etc. So if you want to leave the classroom, you got to flash the ID, you got to hit the hall, hit the head, and then come back. Any staff member can escort a student to the office if they see them without an ID badge. Not mandatory. What's that about? I don't get that. So if you don't have your ID badge and Mr. So-and-so sees you without your ID badge, well, he can escort you right to the office. Excuse me, we need to take a little walk to the office. I notice that you're not wearing your ID badge. I'm sure there's a mistake somewhere. Did you lose yours? Perhaps you need a new one. I'm sure it's not intentional. Why would it be intentional? Because if you were walking around without your ID badge, well, that might be a little defiant against the rules. You know how we are about rules here. I'm sure it's just a bit of a misunderstanding. You might have misplaced it. Come on, let's go to the office and let's straighten it out. All teachers will check to make sure students have ID badges and should not let their students enter their room without a badge. So if you don't have your badge, you're not going into the classroom. That might be a good trade-off. You don't have your badge. You can't come in. Okay. I'll see you later. What do you mean? Oh, I can't come in. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to the office to take care of it? I don't know. I remember the days where I was able to walk right into this classroom. What changed? You know, they changed the game on these kids. They changed the game. The Matrix changed their game. Students without a badge during the first period of the day will need to go to the main office to purchase a new ID for $5 or receive a temporary ID for the day. Students will be allowed one free temporary ID each semester before being required to purchase a new one. Once students have used their one free pass, they will need to purchase a replacement ID for $5. Replacement IDs and lanyards may be purchased in the library or the main office before school, during lunch, and after school. ID replacements cost $5. Lanyard replacements cost $2. If students get swept or sent swept, what is that? That's like some kind of crowd control tactic. If students get swept, I guess that's when a teacher is walking down the hallway and sees a student without a lanyard and sweeps them into the office, or sent into the office and must use their free pass. An email will go home to remind the parent that the student must have their ID at all times and that they will need to purchase a new ID badge if it has been lost. If the student does not have their ID for a second time, they will be given the opportunity to purchase one in the main library or main office. If they're unable to purchase one, they will be taken ISS. Uh-oh. for repeated failure to follow directions. So if you don't wear your stinking badge, you're in big trouble. You can get an email sent home. You might be taken ISS for repeated failure to follow directions. This is just bizarre to me. So first of all, somebody's making a lot of money. They're making money off this. Somebody came in and said, we need more security. All these school shootings and all the rampant chaos that's just rippling through our high schools on a daily basis, it's got to be contained. It's got to be controlled. Badges. Badges. Yes, badges. Let's institute a badge system. ID. Student ID. I love it. Great. So there's a company running that thing. There's a company that runs the whole, because it's all computerized, and I'm not sure where the cameras are in the school, but they're probably either there or they're on their way, because the camera can read either the Q code or the barcode or any kind of code that's associated with the student. It's not just their yearbook picture and their name. There's biometric identification on that lanyard. They're scanning the lanyard to check out books. I'm sorry, the badge. They're scanning the badge to check out books. They're scanning the badge so that you can get lunch. I mean, it's got some biometric identification. And as such, can be picked up just about anywhere. They can have scanners all over the school. They can follow your whereabouts with your lanyard. As long as you got that lanyard on, you're trackable, you're traceable. I don't know. I personally think it's a bit much, to be honest with you. And not only is it a bit much, but it's also indoctrinating our children into a more deeply biometric society. And some people will say, well, what the fuck? You have a problem with that? Are you paranoid? Do you have like paranoid personality disorder? Question mark. I actually like privacy. Now, that's ironic, right? Because here I am. I'm very public. You would think if I was really private, I'd be wearing a bag over my head or something. Well, I think some things should be public. Some things should be face forward. But I would say, by and large, as an individual, we should be able to be free and move about the country, as Southwest says. But that's not always the case now, is it? Thanks to the fact that we need more security, because more security is going to make us feel safer. And when we feel safe, I guess, on some level, we'll have more of a modicum of freedom because somebody else is managing that part of our lives for us. And we don't have to worry about it. So we're free to do something else, whatever that something else is. Isn't that just cool? Isn't that just peachy? Isn't that just keen? But they're indoctrinating them into a more biometrically centric system. So at some point, they'll be so used to the lanyard. I'm sorry, I have the lanyard on my brain. So used to the badge with the lanyard that they'll be able to they'll transition that. And I'm sure there's going to be some transitional exchange for currency. It might be a card. It might be a universal ID card connected to banks, and you just do all your banking with it. That's possible. Certainly, I've talked about the cell phone. Maybe it's a combination of the card and the cell phone. But this is about indoctrination, really. It's about indoctrination. Everybody wears the same thing. Everybody wears the lanyard around their neck. I'd wear like a dog collar or something. The chain that you use to walk your... I mean, come on, people. Come on, kids. Show me something. Let's see what you got. Come on, children of America. Children of Austin. How creative can you be with your lanyards? There's just got to be like a viral effect there, right? What about a lanyard based on coaxial cable or something like that? That'd be kind of funny, don't you think? There's possibilities there. Big time possibilities. I think it's, personally, I think the whole thing is deplorable, to be honest with you. I think it's ridiculous. It's just another 21st century contrivance that's supposed to make us feel better about ourselves. Oh, look. Oh, look how socially conscious and socially aware we are. Oh, look how we're integrating technology. We're going to get really good scores for that. We're going to get good write-ups. Austin schools have now instituted an ID system where students have to wear their identification badges around their neck. Some people might say that it might be a bit too much, but others think it's a step in the right direction for the overall security, sanctity, and safety of society. Well, I think if the children can learn how to wear a badge and track their badge and make sure they don't lose their badge, well, first of all, it helps them become responsible people. And second of all, everybody's wearing a badge. Nobody's special. Well, except for the kids that have the special badges that allow them to go off campus. But by and large, they're all wearing the badge. Nobody's special. There's nothing that keeps one child above another child. I think it's great for our kids. It's democratizing. I think it's bullshit. Why do they need badges? I mean, the thing has gone pretty well up to now for a system that is like deeply flawed. Maybe they should focus on what they're teaching the kids instead of what they're putting around their necks. It's like a yoke. I'm from a different generation. A lot of you people are as well. I was watching and listening to some old songs last night. I was taking a trip down memory lane. And I was listening to stuff from the 60s, mid-60s, early 70s. And some of the music, man. Like when there's this group out of L.A. called The Association. You know them. They did the song Along Came Mary. Precious is the word that I use to describe. Windy. Those guys, you listen to their 3-4 part harmonies. Oh my God, they're incredible. They're incredible. And the melodies, they don't make music like that anymore. I'm sorry, they just don't. And I was listening to some of the stuff in the 70s, really, really great. Some of it's like really funny and comical, and some of it's just fantastic. I was listening to the Walker Brothers last night. Scott Walker passed away, by the way. Did not know that. He passed away of March 22nd of this last year. 21st century man, Scott Walker. What an interesting individual. So then I'm reading the comments, and the comments are almost like universal on all of these songs, whether they're from the mid-60s, early 70s, mid-70s. Comments are the same. Comments are, they don't make music like this anymore. Listen, this is real music, real musicians. Yeah, that's right. It's true. They don't make it like that anymore. These times were so much better. They were simpler. Life was easier. Well, I lived through those times, and I would say the answer to that is yes and no, because it was, we were dealing with the kind of these brewing storm clouds, and the globalization game was just starting to move into swing in the 70s. And part of that was the demoralization of the United States, which, of course, Ori Bezmenov talked about. I've talked about it quite a bit on this show, and we'll probably continue to talk about it. So it begins to set in the 70s. But the music was and the kind of the way of life was vastly different. And then there's usually an anecdote that was tied to the music. Oh, I remember this song when I used to get up in the morning and wake up to the radio and start my paper route, or I'd slam the 8-track tape player and slam the 8-track into my tape player, take a big hit off of my doobie and, cruise down the highway in eastern Washington. There's always something anecdotal, the anchor memory that brings people back. So I was going through, and it's like it's universal. It's like a universal code with all these songs. And I realized that we'll never see that time again. I realized that we'll never have that music again. Of course, I've realized this before. It's not like I just woke up, but it was just like just like another layer was just peeled off the onion. And I have to say, it was a very melancholic experience listening to those songs. Because one would think, oh yeah, those were the good old days. Remember Carly Simon? These are the good old. She was right in a lot of this. Anyway, but that's not where I'm kind of going with this. Where I'm going with this is, and I think every generation can kind of stake a claim to some degree, but the disparity or the contrast, I think, has never been so great between sort of the popular music of today and the popular music of yesteryear. And I'll give you an example. If you go back to the 80s, which is a little, some of the 80s music is a little freaky, right? Like if you watch the Eurythmics in the 80s and you had been in a coma for 20 years and you woke up and you saw the Eurythmics, you'd say to yourself, something drastic has changed in the world, right? But there are still some songs in the 80s that, that kind of have a bit of a crossover in some ways, like Total Eclipse of the Heart. That's an 80s song, but that's a song that, with a bit of a different arrangement, that could have been sung in the 70s, and maybe even a bit of a different arrangement, possibly the 60s. That's a song that can span a couple of generations. So there's some crossover stuff with the 80s. And even in the 70s, there's still some crossover material from like the early. So there's not like this just completely different thing happening. There's a completely different thing happening now, and it's representative of something that is almost like a different species in some ways. And it was funny. I was watching this interview with this guy. Seemed like a good guy, football player, on this really lightweight interview show with Christine Leahy, who Fox has a contract with. And she's blonde and she's beautiful, and they've got to figure out what to do with her because she's just, she knows too much about sports, theoretically, to not have her part of their game. Anyway, the guy was talking about his favorite song. And his favorite song is Shallow by Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. Like, that's the anthem of a generation. Shallow. And that's not to say that Gaga's not talented. She is talented. But there's a lot of baggage that goes along with Gaga. Am I right? A lot of baggage. We know what that baggage is. How deep you want to go. How deep into Gaga file do you want to go? Do you want to go into the ritual sacrifice part of the file? We could. But we know, and that's probably always kind of been around rock and roll, by the way. There's always been like mysterious threads running through a lot of these lives that were lost. A lot of the time it just has to do straight with publishing and money. And making money. Buddy Holly was very adamant in the early days about owning his own music and wanting more of a slice of the pie. Well, we know what happened to Buddy Holly. Now, I'm not saying that it was conspiratorial. I'm not saying that they crashed that plane on purpose. But, it is ironic on some level that the plane did crash just outside of a place called Mason, Iowa. You have to kind of take that into account. Some level, even if it's just one of those strange coincidences. Yeah, but Buddy Holly was somebody who was he was really into the ownership of the music. Can't have that. I was watching a documentary on this group called the Cowsills about a week ago. Very interesting group, basically run by a naval. I wouldn't say he was an officer, but he was in the Navy in quite a long time. Bud Cowsill. He was one of these kind of, Joe Jackson-esque kinds of figures, although I'm not sure he subjected his children to the same type of horrors that Joe Jackson did with Michael and the rest of the Jacksons, but Bud ran the Cowsills with an iron fist. The Cowsills were quite popular. They were a family band. They were the band that was the model for the Partridge Family. It was a group of people all in the same family that could play the shit out of their instruments. They were really, really good musicians. And, look who's coming. Pretty late here. I don't know how we're going to deal with this, with the mic and everything today. Thought about this. What are you going to do now? This is a very different world for you. Very different world for you. I guess we're going to navigate it as it goes. Jasper, do you want to say anything to the people? You got a microphone here now. I can just talk into Jasper's head. This is the new microphone. You know, there's probably he is chipped, by the way. You know, pets are chipped. Now, it's built for safety. It's a freaking house cat. So maybe there's a microphone in the chip. Maybe I could just talk into Jasper's head. Good morning, everybody. This is Robert Phoenix talking to you straight from the Jasper phone. Yeah, wow, wouldn't that be cool? What if I could just stream and podcast? Streaming and podcasting through your pets. Now, there's a novel idea for the 21st century. Pet casting. Anyway, the music scene. Different. Look, I'm sure there's wonderful things to talk about with modern music. But it's clear that it's over. It is over. And when a group of people leave this planet, it's going to be a very different world. You know, because we had a wave of kind of succession, kind of, chain of custody in some ways, but that chain of custody is ending. And in 20 years, a mere 20 years, 2 decades from now, this is going to be a very different place. Very different place. Am I right, Jasper? And look, can there be good things around it? I sure as hell hope so. I really hope so. I want to talk about a good thing. This is good news. You're going to like this. This is one for the team, okay? Very important. Jasper's not letting me, he's got more important plans for my finger, my hand. T-Mobile cancels 5G installation nationwide. Whoa! How about that? Breaking news, boys and girls. Anonymous employee blames 15 states' lawsuits against Sprint merger. Oh, okay. All right. Let me read it for you. From Activist Post. The author is very funny. B.N. Frank. Oh, really? Like B.N. Frank? Right. Just like the killer, the shooter in Odessa. Seth Hathor, also known as Set Hathor or Set Hathor, who basically lived on a dirt floor in a shed. I guess that was the guy's existence, if he even exists. Or let me read this to you here. Activist Post has already reported about states filing lawsuits against the proposed Sprint T-Mobile merger. According to the wireless estimator, T-Mobile is postponing new builds and 5G upgrades, at least for now. The construction manager, who wants to remain anonymous, blames the 15 state attorneys general for filing lawsuits against the T-Mobile Sprint merger. Lawsuits have also been filed against the Federal Communications Commission for promoting and enforcing 5G installation throughout American communities. Anyone who lives where T-Mobile planned to start operating 5G can breathe a sigh of relief, at least for now. The American Academy of Pediatrics and other health experts warn that children are more susceptible to illness from exposure to all sources of wireless radiation. That's okay. They'll be wearing magic badges. And the magic badge will help them. Warnings about widespread 5G installation have been issued for a variety of reasons by doctors and scientists, environmentalists, engineers, meteorologists, security experts, utility companies. So Blumenthal, that crocodile-looking like fellow, who was one of the inadvertent stars, I suppose. There you go. You gonna get your seat now? Thanks for stopping by. Of the Supreme Court Justice hearing. He's like kind of raising concerns about 5G. I guess he'll raise those concerns until these phone companies start to support his campaign a bit more. So there's a lot going on here. 5G and cell tower protests worldwide. Danville denies Verizon. Ooh, Danville, California. Hey, this is right outside where my mom lives. That's good news, man. Danville denies Verizon. The people do have a voice. Dr. Sharon Goldberg testifies at Michigan's 5G small cell tower legislation. Small cell towers, the MIMOs. Those cute little telephone towers that they're going to put every 500 feet. They'll be everywhere. Oh, they'll be cute though. We'll dress them up to look like little gnomes. Those are the small cell towers. Anyway, that's good news, right? That's good news. We need a win every now and then. That's a nice little win. We'll take it. Just remember, Danville denies Verizon. Okay, so I'll put this in the I'll put some of these links in the show page today on YouTube, so you guys can go grab them. Get active, make it happen. Get on the front lines. Voice your concerns. Team up with people. Get to know people. Interact. There you go. Novel concept. All right, let me check in with you guys over in Chatlandia, see what's going on, see what's happening. I've kind of stopped listening to music. It's been a little hard to discern what's good for the soul, what's not. I've been listening to more classical music. Good. Good. Isn't Seth white? What happened to his white privilege? Let's see what else we have here. Music is totally corporate now. There are only 3 writers now that write the charts for it pushes agendas. It's very depressing. Very, very depressing. Music creates memories. No new valuable memories are being created with the crap music of today. Ani. Spot on. Spot on. Good call. Let's see. What else do we have here? Clean Water Fred Correct, updated number 299. A little low in that number. People should watch more of that, I think. If your children need to learn Sanskrit, I'm available. Steve. Phoebe, yes, that was good music. Ambrosia from the 70s had fabulous harmony. Oh, yeah. Nice, nice, very nice by Ambrosia, taken from the lyrics of the Kurt Vonnegut novel, one of my favorite songs of all time, by the way. So we might have to have a little 70s listening party at the event in October. Just to give you an update, people are now starting to bring their deposits in fully, which is great. I appreciate that. I'm going into Kerrville today to meet with the hotel and put some kind of new details together for our trip. I still have spaces left. I still have about 20 spaces left. So if you want to go to the Harvest Moon Hill Country, I've got some spaces left. It's going to be great. And we have a new addition. I love how this thing just keeps getting built out as we go along. Just a new person who actually lives in Kerrville. Her name is Adrienne, and she's a yoga instructor and had a yoga studio, and she's offered to do a little yoga with us on our event. And she likes to do yoga outside. She's got mats and everything, and I think the plan is that we're going to do a little yoga session out at Enchanted Rock. How does that sound? So we're going to get warmed up, loosen up the ligaments, get in tune with the earth, and then Chris is going to come in and bring some dowsing tools in and teach people how to dowse. Isn't that cool? Isn't that great? And then we're going to hit the rock. So it's not going to be like a major hike or climb. There are two ways that we can experience Enchanted Rock and will. One is a short hike, which is probably going to take us about half an hour or so, maybe 40 minutes. And it's kind of around the rock. It's a wonderful trail. You get to see, what I believe are like living monuments to a culture that was in this area. Very sophisticated culture. Long time ago. And then we're going to have a period where if you want to, you can scale the rock. You can get up on the rock. Now everybody has to scale the rock. You can scale the rock part way. You go all the way to the top. But that's going to be part of it too. So it'll be two parts. But it's going to be a really cool time. So we're going to start off with yoga. We'll get in. We'll sync up with the land. Then we'll get into some dowsing, and then we're going to hit the rock, hit the trail, hit the rock, come back, have some lunch, cool water. It's going to be great. It's going to be totally great. So thank you, Adrian, for getting this together and doing some yoga out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I got some spaces left and plenty of time. Right now, there's a sale. Southwest has a big sale going on, flight-wise. You may want to check it out. Austin is on that sale map. I'm not sure if I saw San Antonio, but Austin is. So if you want to get a ticket, now's a good time. It's cheap. All right, Seth, what happened? Let's see what else we have here.